Arielle and Cierra.
Yes, I can hear everybody.
Perfect.
Awesome.
One more time, Cierra. I'm sorry, I don't
Mic check,
think I
mic
can hear
check.
you.
Mic check, mic check. Can
Oh
you hear
gosh,
me?
I can't hear now.
Oh my gosh.
This is really fun. Okay, so
This
we're
is
gonna
great.
figure it out. Um, awesome, love it. It's so weird. When Sasha left, it just like took its.
Yeah. Maybe it's the software. I don't know.
Yes, and we are. Okay. Hopefully, it'll kick back on here again. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Okay.
Cierra, can you hear me? Cierra? Cierra? No. Oh man, this is so disappointing. Bria, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
But we just can't hear Cierra again.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I guess we can maybe get started until she's able to. I don't know if she can hear us.
Well, I'll introduce myself. Okay, well, I'll introduce myself and hopefully it'll kick on or something. I'm going to play around with it while I talk. But nonetheless, yay, we made it to Feminist Friday. Your host, Bria. Just kidding, I won't do the hair flip again. But yes, my name is Bria. I am a member of Mass Now and have been a member of Mass Now for like a year and a half now, probably. The former social media manager, but no longer doing that. So hopefully everybody can see and hear this and wants to give us good thumbs up and hearts and all the things. So this Feminist Friday, we are with our Feminist in Action grantee winners. Print Ain't Dead, which is Arielle Gray, and Cierra Peters. So, Arielle, I think since I can hear you, do you want to kick it off just by saying who you are, maybe a little background on Print Ain't Dead while we wait for Cierra to come back on?
Yeah, sure. So I am Ari. I am the co-founder of Printing Dead along with Cierra. So I guess the definition of Printing Dead is kind of evolving as we figure out what it is that we're focusing on. But right now we have like a super in-depth, I guess, description and then a more casual one. But I think we would say that we're a bookstore and literary organization centering the voices of POC with a specific focus on queer and trans women of color. Right now, we're operating out of a studio in Hyde Park, and all of our books are for sale at like lower prices because we don't think that price should be a barrier to accessing knowledge. So all of our books are priced between $2 and $10, and then we pop up around Boston as well. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of what we do. I think we do a lot more, but I may get like a little complicated. I don't know to add into our bio. So I don't know. Sierra, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys. Can you hear
Okay,
me?
perfect. Yes. Yay.
Sweet. Yeah, no, I think you hit it right on the head. Yeah, so we just sell curated and books that we produce ourselves for between $2 and $10. We also have like a couple side projects. We did like dinner series, and we have a. Did you talk about Black Feminist Study Hall?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. So we have a, I guess consciousness raising group would be like the most historical way to describe it. And so, yeah, so we have the Black Feminist Study Hall. I think that that's like about it
Yeah.
for now, like the things that we can talk about.
Yeah, those are like our main lines of programming for right now. Virtually, we were really excited. We had literally just moved studios into like a bigger space that was more well suited for the bookstore. And then like literally had just finished getting it all together, and then all this stuff with the
Yeah.
pandemic happened. We had a lot of big plans for using our space for like just community gatherings and offering it as a space for different collectives and organizations to utilize in their programming. So yeah, that's kind of a disappointment. And I think we're still trying to figure out how we can offer those things virtually instead.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds challenging, but what do you see for the future of Print Ain't Dead, whether it be like a in-house or whatever it is that you think might be next? Can you give us a little insight, or maybe what do you hope for in the future after post-pandemic, whatever that might look like? Hopefully a non-capitalist society, but who knows?
Yeah. Cierra, do you want to talk about that?
Oh my God, can we ever have a non-capitalist society? They're fighting so hard. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's something that we talk about a lot is like trying to imagine futurity for ourselves as like brown people, as black people, as queer people. Like, how can you kind of come to a place where you can be like, oh yeah, I'm going to exist, and like my people will exist, even though they're like actively trying to write us outside of history. So right now, like a lot of the things that we're trying to do and thinking about is documentation, and like what it means to document now, what it means to document for the future, what it means to live as future ancestors. And like
Girl.
embodying our principles and like
Yeah.
embodying our values, like that's something that comes up a lot. Is just like, how do we like, you know, like step into or like live into our values? And it's not easy. Yeah, imagining future. So right now what we're thinking about is like pivoting more towards online, like Ari was saying. So what that looks like, I mean, I don't know. We both like have such big dreams for ourselves and like what we want to do for our lives. So so like we've talked about having like more readings. When we started, we had a space in Dorchester as a month-long pop-up, and we used to do poetry readings every Sunday. So we talked about bringing that back. Collaborating with like our feminist elders is like really big. I think that like Ari and I both are like, I don't know, like we want to honor and like think through like how we can be in community with our elders and things like that. Especially like as queer people, like you don't really get to like see or know a lot of your queer elders like in public space, or even like encounter them in public space sometimes.
Right.
So like that's a really big thing for us. What else would you say, Ari?
Yeah, I would say like the archiving is really where we kind of center a lot of our work. And unfortunately, some of that has been limited now that we, can't access libraries or archive centers or research centers. So some of those things are limited, but luckily the internet is really dope. So you can find a lot. Yeah, you can find a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
And I would say, I guess our next biggest project is just really kind of expanding the Black Feminist study halls and including a lot of these other organizations across the country that are doing this work and have been doing this work. And yeah, just figuring out how we can, like we said, archive it. Right now we're working on producing some like, I don't know what you would call them, chapbooks or zines that basically, yeah, I don't, but
yeah,
publishing, yeah. Publishing material based off of our notes from our study hall that kind of break down all of the different things that we touched on, just as like a resource point, I guess, kind of like a cliff notes of like the things that we're reading and studying during these times that we have together. And then also just kind of thinking about some other projects that we had in mind. Like part of our project before all of this was happening was to establish these different like remote cloud libraries where people could access Black feminist literature. And then also having like these images that are put up around the city that would act as a jumping point for people to engage with this stuff. But now with everything happening, we just kind of have to re-strategize.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds difficult, but we are so grateful that you two are doing it. So I have a question. If you had to pick one work of Black feminist thought, and I mean one, one author, you'd pick one work that was like a mandatory reading for Bostonians, maybe, or just citizens, or not citizens, just folk in general. What would you pick? I mean, that question is hard as hell for me.
I think Ari already knows
what are you gonna say?
Uses of the erotic.
Yeah, that is your
Yeah, I don't know. I
have a beautiful old copy of the uses of the erotic, by the way. So
It's really good, and I just think that like the function of like, you know, colonialism and capitalism and all these things in our lives, honestly, patriarchy, is to shut ourselves down from like our innate like embodied, you know, knowledge. And so like, I don't know, like what else is freedom but like being free in your body and like honoring your intuition.
mm,
Even though it goes like so much further than that, like that work in particular like really has always resonated with me.
right.
And also Black feminist thought started in Boston, so
Nice.
I'm like all of it, because all of it is Bostonians history. I'm like, how about you get into that?
Oh my gosh, I cannot.
Seriously though, seriously.
What would you say?
Oh shit. You put me on the spot. Let me
I got.
like I gotta look on my bookshelf. I don't know. I guess it depends on like this is really hard.
Yeah.
I would say like as an organization, I reference like the Combahee River Collective statement a lot. In thinking about like how printing dead functions. I think for myself, I would say the Salt Eaters by Bambara, only because that was something that was introduced to me by my grandmother, and so it wasn't something that like I read because like I wanted to read about Black feminism. I mean, as a lot of us encountered like books about Black feminism, it's about our experiences, so it feels very natural to want to read it and to have it kind of be part of your curriculum if you're lucky enough to have an old Black person to suggest these things to you. Sometimes like you don't, but that was the one, and just like the emphasis on healing as a process, and also as a process that's integral to being able to enact change outside of yourself. That's been like really, yeah.
And I think the other thing that I love about what you're saying, Ari, is that like, isn't that one of like the tenets of Black feminist study or Black feminism anyways, to like always be grounded in regular ass people, the quotidian, like whoever is like, you know, I think that that's really amazing. I was also gonna say, like, I mean, we reference her a lot, but like Toni.
Yeah, Toni Morse.
Like we like honor her so much in our work, but yeah, that would be like another author. I would say beloved, but another author whose work like deals with the archive, deals with like quotidian Black lives.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I see a question here.
Yeah.
Suggestions for ages 9 to 12.
Yeah.
Graphic novels.
Didn't they redo Cringe?
That is challenging, but I will say
the graphic novels I'm thinking of are not suitable for ages 9 to 12.
No, they redid Kindred. Isn't Kindred now
Yeah, but Kindred is not for 9 to 12-year-old because Kindred has rape and other stuff in it.
Well, I was thinking Nick Stone just did Shuri.
Yeah, there we go.
The Marvel comic, and I mean, she's more radical than other Marvel writers, so maybe that's something a 9 to 12-year-old can probably get their hands on and explore a little bit more, and then maybe that's a good introduction to Nick Stone, and then into Andy Thomas, and then into everybody else that follows that rabbit hole, which is a fun exploration. So
yeah, I also think it depends on what. Yeah, if your kid likes graphic novels, then yeah, I definitely would. There's just so much kids literature. Would you say?
Persepolis. I don't know if I read that. I was definitely in like high school.
Yeah, I think that's when it came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are a few other ones like I would say Pet by Kwake Emezi is another good one. But again, that kind of depends on like your personal. Like I don't know.
And like introduce it to them in a way that like.
Yeah, because it's about a trans Black girl. So I mean, it was a really beautiful read, but I think it all depends on like your parenting and what I guess what you want your kids to read.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I really appreciated the question from the public. Kim, the public. Thank you, Kim. Um, okay, so back to more about, well, maybe we can transition this conversation from solely about printing dead into like maybe not suggestions for community reads, but what are your thoughts on like book clubs and community spaces that allow people to explore different literature and whatnot? I mean, I find it really so from my experience, I have been part of book clubs that I found it very challenging to see eye to eye with people, and I'm sure you're not meant to see eye to eye with people, but it is nice to be able to have like that collective experience where it's like, oh yes, I felt that piece of Sula from by Toni Morrison, you know, or I felt that like and be able to feed off of each other in that way. And sometimes in these like book clubs or in these spaces, it's a little bit harder to do that, especially when it's a mandatory book club for work. Well, I'm not going to start about that, but that's just an idea. So, what do you two have any thoughts on just that collective experience from like book clubs or just I don't know, community readings? Do you participate in them? That's the first question, I guess.
We run a book club.
Yeah, we do.
Black Feminist Study Hall is like kind of a book club.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like actively I don't go into places where I'm gonna get annoyed, and that's like an active choice of mine. So I can't really. I don't know like what like the answer to that would be, but I mean, book clubs are amazing. Book clubs are great, and I think that it just like ultimately like like we want to be in spaces where we're going to be challenged, but not necessarily have to teach.
Right, or to have to defend your humanity.
Yeah.
Like the problem with sometimes going to book clubs where there aren't a number of people of color is that it can get really uncomfortable really fast. And beyond people of color, you know, book clubs where there aren't queer and trans people, and like you're feeling super uncomfortable, which also is
whatever you're
right. So yeah, I don't know. Book clubs, I have a hate love relationship with book clubs. Like I love them. I think they're really necessary, but I think it has to be looked at as something that's more than just like, oh, this is cute. Like we read a book and then we meet up and we like sip drinks and talk about it. It's like it's really a space of like discussion and cultural exchange, and I don't feel like it's handled with the seriousness that a space like that requires sometimes. Sometimes it's just like, oh, this is cute.
Yeah. I'm thinking of like Little Fires right now.
It's real.
In that. I'm thinking of Little Fires in the book club scene in that show. How awkward that was. So I completely understand what you're saying, Ari. And then I would also say, like, why does it have to be like such a formalized thing? Like, if you and your friend are both reading the same book or like decide to read the same book, like, is that not a book club? Like, if it's just your text thread or like the group chat, like, why can't that also be, like you said, Ari, approached with the same seriousness and care as anything else? I think.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know, like collective study, like get 2 or 3 of your friends together and just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say that's
that's the navigate. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. Book clubs are uncomfortable at times. 100% agree.
It can be, yeah.
I mean, any space with people is going to be uncomfortable.
Right, it's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to be challenged. But yeah, can you imagine unpacking Little Fires everywhere? Like,
oh my God.
You know, and I mean, even without like the race aspect, because I don't believe that.
Yeah, it was a big.
Right, but even still, like the very real issues of class. It's like, how are you breaking down this novel and all of its pieces? Like, if you're in a book club and like everybody who comes is like, you know, a suburban mom who, you know, doesn't need to worry about money. You know what I mean? Like, there's just like sometimes a limit on certain conversations if you're having them with like
culturally homogenous group.
Yeah, culturally. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Do either of you have thoughts on the show? I have not personally watched it, but my roommate watched, I guess, since the season's over. watched it and really enjoyed it, but I have several thoughts. So I don't know. Have either of you watched it?
Yeah, I watched it. Did you watch it, Ari? Did we talk about
No, no. I think this is a recurring theme. I don't watch it. I do.
it?
But no, okay, so this is what happened. I watched the first episode and it gave me so much anxiety that I had to stop watching because the microaggressions were so real. And I was just like, oh, I already know. Like I already know what's gonna happen. I already know what's gonna happen.
I
So
think
I
that
stopped watching.
I think that any brown person that has had to like transverse, or like black person that has had to transverse like suburban space, especially like at maybe like a younger age, like was triggered by that show. Because I was just like, this little girl, she doesn't deserve it.
Right.
She doesn't
Right.
deserve any of that, like from any
Well,
of those.
the daughter.
Yeah, the daughter. She like just some microaggressions, like you were saying, like left and right, just people talking to her crazy and her not even being able to like fully
Process it.
comprehend or process like what was happening was
Right.
just so for me. I was just like,
Right. It's I remember I had a friend whose parents wouldn't let her watch The Proud Family. I told you that because they said it was too ghetto. And imagine how awkward it was being at her fucking house for sleepovers.
The Proud Family was fucked up, and the way that they treated Dejanay was fucked up too.
Okay, but it was still a cultural cornerstone.
Cultural cornerstone, classic, and
Classic, but also problematic as hell.
but also problematic.
As most things, like, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry. I have questions about your friend whose parents thought Proud Family was too ghetto, but at the same time, I mean, I want to kind of come back to the Little Fires Everywhere thing because it's just going back to book club and reading or thinking about reading Little Fires Everywhere. What kind of book club? How can book clubs be made like a safer, more braver space? I guess. I don't know. I'm not sure if that's something that maybe we can tackle together, or what do you see that working, or how do you both see that working? That question. Let me rephrase that.
Homogenous.
Oh, go ahead.
Add more people that don't think like you. I think particularly for like, actively choose the participants. Like, make sure that you're adding voices that you like don't normally hear from, or that you're organizing it in a way that is like safe.
Right. I did this thing called The Jar, which is run by this guy named Guy, actually. And like I like the way that they do it because they have a person, one of the members who's going to be in that week's group or whatever, they choose a piece of art. And then it's like a random group of people who then discuss this art. And like sometimes it's awkward, but sometimes there's like really dope conversation that comes from it because everybody is so different, like across race, across location on the globe, whatever it may be. So it's really interesting. But I think it's like, to Cierra's point, like you have to make sure that you have people who don't think like you in them. And then also, I think this is a really important part for us, is making sure that you have a set of community guidelines that people have to adhere to. Like you can't just invite people into a space and not set guidelines to protect folks, especially folks with marginalized identities. So we make it very clear what our guidelines are each time before we open a space. And we've seen other people do that too, where it's like an essential part of opening. It's like, these are our rules. This is how we respect each other. Step up, step back, don't dominate the conversation. We have like a whole list. So
yeah, no, that's beautiful.
Definitely.
And go ahead.
No,
oh, nope. Okay. Can you talk a little bit about sistering? I want to make sure I'm honing in on all of your beautiful qualities from Print Ain't Dead and all of what the collective is all about and just the amazingness. So if you can just tell maybe people what that is and how to implement it, things like that. Praxis.
Yeah. Ari, do you want to start?
Yeah, so it's something that
Alexis Pauline go.
Would you? Yeah. So it's something that we were exploring in our last Black feminist study hall. We read this essay by Alexis Pauline Gumbs called "The Sweetness of Salt," which is from Adrienne Marie Brown's latest book, which is called Pleasure Activism. And so the essay, there's a portion of the essay in which she's describing. She describes her relationships to 5 Black women who have really kind of changed like her life in some way, shape, or form. And part of what she brings up is like sistering. And sister being a verb, not just a role, but an action, a thing that you do that you choose to participate in. And yeah, we've just been focusing a lot on this, I think, lately.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So like, how do you move out of a space where sister is like a static, fixed idea? Like, I will always be your sister. And how do you move into it where, like you said, it's a verb? And what are the ways that we practice sistering with our friends? What are the ways that we practice sistering with our family members, with the people in your life at large? Sistering is not gendered. And yeah, I don't know. We had like so many like amazing thoughts and questions, and just thinking about like what are the technologies of sistering, and what are like how can we unthink or get to a place where we're not thinking about these things as like a thing that you've mastered, or a place that you just like, I have done it, I am now radical, I am now whatever you're trying to shift into, and think about it as like a constant growth period, like something that you're actively working at.
Yeah. And then also we also talked about like where somebody brought up in the group, like not false sisters, not false sistering, but like sometimes sistering under the wrong pretenses, or I forget exactly what it was that they said. Yeah, but like also sometimes coming to the realization that maybe the people who have filled like that traditional role for you aren't fulfilling like the actions that are actually required for sistering. And how do you handle that? How do you disagree with your sisters in a way that's like equitable? Yeah, it just brought up a lot of questions for us about like relationships in general, radical relationships.
This is an idea that like go ahead. I'm sorry, Cierra. I keep cutting you off.
No, go ahead.
This is definitely an idea that like I've thought about, and I know I've had conversations with multiple people about, but like radical relationships and how like this is real out there, but this is what the happy hour is about, right? I got my wine, I got my girls, it's all good. But like having like multiple soulmates in this world, and a lot of those are your sisters, are your girlfriends, are your best friends, and being able to communicate with them in like in a different way than you would with like your mother, like your grandmother, or like your partner, who those aren't all the same levels of communication. Those are all different kind of loves and things you can like feed off of them. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know. I don't think that was a question, but I'm still taking the public if they want to bring those out. But just that idea of sistering from like a truly like loving, like I love and cherish you from regardless, and like that in and of itself is radical, because you might not always agree with that person,
Yeah. And
yeah.
Love, right? Like, which is like the thing that we're all ultimately, I think, like seeking as humans. Is the ability to have, or like how can we fuck up and still come back and still be considered like whole. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we can explore that through like our acts of sistering. I think the more you're able to negotiate with other people and disagree in a way that's productive and love in a way that's productive, I think you're able to then take those lessons and apply them to yourself, and examine the ways like your relationship with yourself essentially is just as important as your relationship with anyone else. And yeah, that's what I've been thinking about a lot. Like, are you a sister to yourself? Like, first and foremost,
Yeah.
Am I a sister to myself? I mean, is that a question that we should have on a t-shirt? Should we just start asking people that on bumper stickers? I mean,
oh my God.
Yeah, I don't know.
That shit's deep.
Are you a sister to yourself, Cierra?
I try to be,
Right.
wake up every day like everybody else, you know.
It's hard.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and it's like, again, like it's a constant practice. So it's not necessarily that like if you like, you know, drink coffee at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon or something like that, that suddenly like you're no longer like able to fulfill the role of like sistering yourself. I don't even know like what the unhealthy habit would be at this point, but I haven't drank water today, so like suddenly I'm not a sister to myself, you know. Like I think that we need to like unlearn those like really I don't know, like self-criticism, like harsh self-criticisms. I think
Yeah.
that's what we all do. But yeah, like what does it mean? I like what that question though, like what does it mean to be in like radical relationship to yourself? Like that
Yeah.
is really, and I, you know what I think about too is like when Alexis talked about the divided histories that lived in her body. And so like how do you find ways to remain present? Because I think that's ultimately like the way to sister yourself is to like stay embodied, stay living within your values, stay present.
Yes. And so are we going to talk about Insecure? Are we going to do that?
Oh yeah, no,
Do
we
it.
totally should.
Do
because
it.
Do you watch Insecure, Bria?
I don't know if she can. Bria, do you watch Insecure?
Yeah, I watch Insecure. Have you watched the?
Oh.
I heard, I wasn't on the call, or not the call. I wasn't on the video earlier, but I heard it. Someone, Ari, hasn't watched more than 6 episodes.
No, I have not.
I'm not judging. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean, I've been seeing everything about Molly and Issa's friendship, and I'm just like, I don't know what's going on here.
So
What's going on here?
straight up, that's not sistering. That's not communication. That's not sistering on either that personal, like I'm sistering for myself, and that's not sistering on the other, like interpersonal with other people. It's just, it's fucked up.
Yeah.
Sorry, Facebook. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but it's just difficult. Cierra, do you watch Insecure? Have you watched the newest season?
I watch every episode of Insecure. I love Insecure. I love Issa Rae. I love the show since Awkward Black Girl. And I think that like the issue, or it's not really like an issue, I see fault on both sides. Like I hate to be that person, but it really is like, you know, a lot of spiritual bypassing and a lot of like, you know, it's not serving me to do this right now, so I guess I'm just gonna like let this 10-year friendship fall apart, which I think is like such bullshit on both their sides. Yeah, just like completely, I don't know, just like unfair. One thing that my sister said is like Molly is in a season in her life where like, you know, you just have to love people from afar sometimes, and sometimes you need to just take space from your friends, and like that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely aren't being sisters to each other right now.
So it's like I feel like that's totally okay too if you have a friend and you have to take space from them. I think that's normal and healthy. Like sometimes you need to take space from your parents. Sometimes you need to take space from your job. Like sometimes you're gonna need to take space from your friends. But I think people have such a weird definition of friendship that they're like, oh well, if we're taking space from each other, then that means we're not friends.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's codependent. Codependent
Yeah,
AF, but the word one codependent and enmeshed in order to sell us things that we don't
So
need.
who's who's in the wrong? Well, who's more in the wrong?
Molly.
Molly is definitely more in the wrong.
So what happened?
It's
Oh,
also
wait, no, we shouldn't spoil it for people.
I mean, if you haven't watched it yet.
Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna watch it just because I feel like it's so much to catch. I don't have anything against the show. Like I know that people love it. I myself would probably love it, but I'm tired. And like, I don't know. I just don't want to catch up on it right now.
You want to decompress in a way that does not involve human emotion. I feel you.
Right, exactly. It's something mindless that I don't have to pay attention to.
Yeah. Definitely. Is there anything that like either of you take away from Insecure that's like applicable to what we're experiencing right now, which is really challenging, like living in this crazy pandemic time? But is there anything that like, besides watching it mindlessly, which I also do sometimes, is there anything that you take away from that every now and then, maybe?
Were you gonna say something, Ari?
No, because I don't watch the show. So I don't have anything to say.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's anything to be taken away from this show other than like the season is about communication. Like, I don't know if like this show is necessary. It's supposed to be didactic in that way. I think that it's just like, you know, a portrayal of like these millennial Black femmes' lives. And I don't think that it's supposed to teach us anything. I think that it's like very much in the like anti-hero kind of like girls like line of shows where they're just like living their lives, and like maybe there's something to be gleaned from their mistakes, but
Right.
there's not anything that I necessarily like take away from it as like a way to live my life personally.
What's that show? Selah and the Spades.
Yeah.
Have you
watched that? I'm too old. No, I couldn't.
Too old because they're in high school.
Yeah, did you watch it?
Yeah, I watched some of it and it was really good. But somebody was saying that on Twitter about how like Selah, she's not the hero, she's not the heroine. Like she's actually kind of like
the antagonist.
Yeah, she's kind of the antagonist. Like she does really shitty things.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't really care about people, but also like that's okay because we don't ever get to see Black people portrayed like just as they are. Like they don't always have to be the hero. They don't always have to be the magical Negro. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah, she seems complicated.
Yeah. It's really complicated. You should watch it. It's cute.
I didn't finish it. I watched part of it and I got up to the scene where like she got like where she was like attacking that boy and like tying him up, and I was just like, y'all are in high school. What is happening? I need to
Right. I'm like, it was not intense for me. It was like when I was watching Gossip Girl and I was like,
yeah,
what is happening to me? I don't know why y'all got so much drama.
Listen, she bought like I was watching or like reading on Twitter today, like Rita bought her boyfriend a $25,000 watch, and they were in 11th grade. And I'm just like, what are we?
Wait, who? Serena did?
Yeah, I don't.
Oh wait, who
remember
did buy it for? Nate or Dan?
Dan. She bought Dan a $25,000 watch.
I never liked Dan.
Dan was.
And now everybody's fanning over him because he's on You.
Yeah.
Which is an equally as disturbing show as anything else, and it makes you question yourself.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Surveillance culture.
Yeah, and the fact that he literally kills his girlfriend, and then you've got women on Twitter talking about how hot he is, and he literally told everybody, he was like, this is not hot. This is like, the point of this is not for you to like my character. Like, this is to show you how easy it is for men to surveil and stalk women and kill them. Like, what's wrong? And then you still got chicks on Twitter, oh my god, he's so hot, whatever the actor's name is, I forget his name.
Penn Badgley.
Yeah. I mean, he's kind of cute.
Yeah, I mean, like he is cute.
This is
like, it needs to be a little bit more
moment.
than that. I think that's the point. You need to come with more than a cute face.
Right.
Simone Brown wrote a book, which I'm now blanking on. It's not right in front of me, but I swear I was just thinking about it, on surveillance culture and Blackness and how, like, well, she didn't say it, but I was actually watching like the first 2 episodes of You. I never finished it. Don't hate me. And how like that shit would never happen if, what's his name in the show? Joe?
Badgley? Yeah, Joe.
Joe was Black. No, Cierra.
I've had people stalked by, I know people who've been stalked by Black guys.
Yeah, no, that's not, I don't think that's like, I think that he is able to, I mean, like we're suspending belief a little bit because he, like, in season 2, doesn't he like create a whole new like color, like in a
murder chamber?
Yeah, his new murder chamber, like,
yeah,
so, like, we're suspending,
totally unrealistic.
Yeah, totally unrealistic. In LA, in a storage warehouse, like,
right. How does he even have enough money to rent his apartment in LA? Like, come on now.
Apartment, the storage warehouse, the glass to create.
Working at a bookstore or wherever the hell it was he was working.
He was working at a grocery store.
Grocery store.
Making $11 an hour. How did he do that? We don't know.
Right.
But I think that there is a way in which like dating culture does, and I do know the book that you're talking about. It's Dark Matter. And it's like about the culture of surveillance or something like that. It's like the subtitle, but I don't know. I think that like things can get really scary, and like, you know, if you're posting all your stuff online, like, you know, like the things that he did like weren't necessarily out of like the realm of
possibility,
outside the realm of belief. Yeah, because all he was doing was like checking their Facebook. He wasn't really
on their Instagram.
Yeah, and their Instagram. He wasn't like hacking into their cell phones. He was like,
well, didn't he though? He kind of did.
Did he?
He set it up to where he got her messages on his phone.
Did he? I don't remember.
Yeah, he did. He did.
He did. It was crazy.
He did do some crazy stuff.
But of all the craziness, in all actuality, that craziness could never actually, like, and I mean, it can't. I don't know if it could happen in real life, but if it did, you, as a black man, you would never be able to perpetrate that ever, because like black bodies are constantly being surveilled. And this is not. I mean, just
he wouldn't be able to get it. Yeah, no, I don't.
Yeah, it would be a lot harder to get away.
To the effort, yeah, to like the extent that Joe did, but like this still happens.
Joe was like this unassuming white guy, but also, you know, ever seen Players Club, that weirdo who ran up on her after she came home from the club? Like, you know, it happens. It happens. So actually, there was this spoof where they did it, where they were like, if you place him in Brooklyn. Oh my god, it was hilarious.
That was pretty funny.
Joe?
No, it was, they like did a spoof. It was on Twitter.
It was like, he's at the grocery store or something, and
yeah, he's like at the bodega. He sees this shit. She asks him to hand her mad diapers, and then he follows her home. And yeah,
not funny.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's a little spoof is kind of funny.
Okay, I need to watch it.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like you if it took place in Brooklyn.
Yeah. It's just crazy how we can apply Black feminist thought to literally everything. Like,
yeah,
everything.
That's the beauty of it. It's like water. Everybody drink it, and it's good for you.
Shea butter,
right? Shea butter.
For
your ashy knees and elbows.
Ashy knees, elbows, arms, hair.
So I just have one more question, or one more question from not the audience, but kind of the audience. So when we're thinking about where we're at in this pandemic right now, and there's just so much crisis that's all around us, and just it's a lot of sadness and a lot of uncertainty. I guess the question, I wouldn't pose this question because I also think that Black feminist thought is fluid like water. But if someone were watching this and they were like, well, why do I need to study Black feminist thought? Why do I need this in my life? How can you apply it to what we're experiencing right now, and how the necessity and the need for it is just so much higher because of where we are right now?
I would say that if everyone studied some of these tenets of Black feminism, which I mean at their root it's like it's sistering, it's community care, it's showing up for your neighbors, I feel like a lot of these things wouldn't be happening. I feel like if more cis men, more white people took on like the mantle of sistering, things would be in a much better place. But I don't know. I mean, I guess you don't have to, and I wouldn't go as far to say that you need it. I mean, you know, you engage with it if you feel like it matters to you. And I feel like for so many of us, it matters to us because it's like we're reading our stories. You know what I mean? Like I didn't see myself until I started engaging with Black feminism. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would say definitely start with the Combahee River Collective Statement, because it's short and it so easily gets to the point of why we need this in our everyday. And the answer, I guess, like the short answer is that like if you don't take care of like the most vulnerable populations, then you ultimately won't ever achieve freedom for anyone. And I'm not sure. Or let me say that I don't know how we ever reach true liberation without that. Without that sort of care and centering and, like you said, like community care.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you think about this like now where you see a lot of these people who are essential workers are people of color, are people of marginalized identities, are people who are cash poor. And it's like, if we had systems, Black feminist systems in place, these people would be taken care of. Like, Cierra, you would be taken care of. I would be taken care of.
Everybody would be taken care of.
Right, like literally. And I don't understand why people don't want that. No, I do understand why, but yeah, I feel like it's like, yeah, it's very vast, because it would really require unlearning all the things that we've been taught about the way society operates, about the way capitalism operates, about the way socialism operates. I mean, Barbara Smith said, like we are socialists, and we still are. And yeah, I think that pretty much sums up like their, I don't know, they're like their organizing goals when they do when they were organizing.
I think the notion of like mutual aid during these times right now, I mean, we wouldn't even be able to wrap our heads around what mutual aid is if it wasn't for like Black feminist thought, or just Black women in general. But it's just crazy how literally at the most desperate and dire, and even when we're not in times of need, we can only rely on ourselves and like the ones around us. So community care is necessary, and I think that's why we have these feminist happy hours, so we can call upon one another, check in, see where we are, maybe even just get a chance to see each other, or see people like us.
Right.
And we're like popping up on different Facebook feeds and whatnot. So collective, hey, right? It's so cheesy, but it is what it is. And I'm really grateful for these times, for us to just be able to chat and connect on a different level that isn't superficial, isn't super, I don't know. I'm using the term legalese right now, but you know what I mean, like
yeah,
the realm
like produced and
yeah. So
casual. Well, thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Having us.
Yeah, I'm so grateful for both of you, and we are so excited to see the work that you're both going to continue doing with Print Ain't Dead, and we're going to keep rooting for you and cheering for you and sending you good energy and good vibes during these crazy times. So I don't think there's any other questions or anything. I know we're kind of short on time today, but do either of you have any closing thoughts on what you want to share with people?
Follow us on Instagram, print. Follow us on Twitter.
Good.
The same tag.
No, it's underscore on Twitter because the dot was taken, I think, or something.
Yeah, plug it.
It's
plug it all.
underscore ain't underscore dead on Twitter.
Yeah.
I don't think Twitter allows you to use dots in your name. I don't know.
Maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely be able to share all the things on all the social media. So we got you, you know?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you both so much for taking the time. We love it and we appreciate you. Stay blessed.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.